Hello and welcome to the Watchful Citizen, a local access program presented by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. I'm your host, Jane Egan. Today's guest is Linda Anderson.
Hi.
Welcome. Linda, you are a grassroots campaigner for the Bernie Sanders campaign for president. How exciting.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how that came about and just what is a grassroots campaigner?
Oh, okay. Well, it came about, there was a gal in Omaha that started noticing all these Facebook pages popping up all over every place, per state, and said, well, why haven't we started one? So she started Nebraskans for Bernie 2016 on Facebook. And she is actually now working for the campaign in Council Bluffs. And when she left, she needed to find somebody to take her place, so I took her place, and I'm the admin for Nebraskans for Bernie 2016 on Facebook, and we've got a Twitter account, and it's really expanding.
So have you been involved in politics before, or was this something new for you?
Really kind of skimming the waters a little bit as far as political involvement. We worked a little bit for Obama in 2008. I have small, well, not small anymore, they're 10 and 12, but I have children, so, when you have little kids, it's hard to really get involved. But Bernie Sanders is really the first presidential candidate that I've really felt I can fully get behind. So we knew, and we've been fans of Bernie Sanders for years, so we knew when he announced his candidacy that we really needed to get involved, so. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you how I first learned about Bernie Sanders, and then I'll ask you. I watch Free Speech TV on cable television, and there's a progressive talk show, the Thom Hartmann program. And Bernie is a weekly guest on Fridays, Brunch with Bernie. And so he takes phone calls from viewers for a whole hour. And I never miss it, and I was always fascinated, and I always thought to myself, why doesn't this man run for president? So I too have been very taken with Senator Sanders. Is that kind of how did you find out about Bernie Sanders? I know a lot of people still don't know who he is or where he came from.
I think 44%, something like that, of the entire population still doesn't know who Bernie Sanders is or have never heard his name. I wear my button everywhere, and my daughter jokes that...
I'd like to get one of those.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to get one for you.
Okay.
My daughter jokes that, she joked this morning that I don't sleep in it, but I wear it all the time. But people are like, who's Bernie Sanders? And I begin to tell them, and, they hear what he's about, and they're like, oh, wow. And it's interesting how many people really agree with a lot of his policies. And obviously, there's never a candidate that everybody's going to entirely agree with, but, I think a large portion of our country is really in agreement with, when you break everything down with what he stands for. My husband is a social studies teacher, so we're always reading about politics. I think I've seen clips of Brunch with Bernie, but I've never actually watched a full show. So we have just been reading about him for years and all the cool things he's been doing in Vermont, that we just sort of kind of fell in love with him just through articles and things like that. So yeah.
Well, he's been drawing huge crowds around the country. Did you go to Iowa when he was here?
Yes, we helped out in Council Bluffs.
Okay. Give us a general impression of how the crowd received him. And
very well.
Okay.
Very well. Everyone was just really excited about what he had to say. I saw a lot of tears in the audience, just kind of, I think a lot of people, this is their first time a presidential candidate has ever really hit home to them, because there's a lot of people that are struggling in our country right now. The middle class is just falling apart. We've got so many people that are in poverty. We're barely above poverty, and my husband's a high school teacher. There's something really wrong with that in our country when, there's somebody that's teaching the future of our country and they're barely above poverty level.
Now, I don't expect you to know everything about his policy positions, but can you talk to us a little bit about where Senator Sanders is on helping the middle class? What are some of his ideas?
He's got a lot of great ideas in helping the middle class. And first is right now he really believes, and Jimmy Carter said recently as well, that we're living in an oligarchy. And what he's proposing to do is make sure that the billionaire class is no longer taking from the middle class. I mean, they've been riding on our backs for way too many years. And making sure that, I mean, they're sending $150+ million every year to tax havens. That needs to stop. Their taxes are getting lower and lower and lower, and that needs to stop. And they need to take responsibility and act like American citizens and, you know, return that money, because they can't just keep making more and more and more and more.
And it seems like they're turning around and spending their billions on you know, getting people elected that see their views.
Because they see a return in that.
Right.
You know, they're giving all their billions of dollars to, you know, even Hillary Clinton. Not that she isn't a great candidate, but, you know, there's something to be said for Bernie Sanders not taking any of that corporate money. His average donation in the first quarter was $33.51 from people just like you and me. Unions are his top donors. Where, you know, I mean, Hillary's top 10 donors are all corporations, you know.
And so we feel that perhaps she might be beholden to.
Yeah, I like to say it's kind of like a wink and a handshake when you take that money from someone. Like, I'll give you this money, but, you know, I want you to do some things for me. It's a I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine kind of situation.
So the Sanders campaign seems to be truly grassroots in that area as far as raising money.
Yes.
Do you think he's going to be able to raise enough, though? I mean, it still is a money game.
In the first quarter, he raised $15 million.
15?
15.
Okay.
That's a lot, just from coming from people like you and me. And it does take a lot of money, but I think with the backing of people in the United States, that we need to come out in droves to the poll booths, and come out in droves, especially Nebraska, to our caucus March 5th.
Right.
Get out there
Right.
and, you know, stand up for Bernie and stand up for, you know, our middle class, and you know, that, like Bernie keeps saying over and over, enough is enough. You know, we need to not have continuing society the way that it's been going along. So
I think one of the policy issues that he has been talking about is getting rid of Citizens United.
yes, that's a big
And getting the money out of the campaign process, the
Yep.
political process.
Yep.
So you're a volunteer with the organization. Is there a structured organization here in Nebraska with paid employees that's on the ground yet?
Nope.
Do you think
no
there will
paid
be,
employees.
or?
I am not entirely sure. Something like that may come about, who knows, sometime before the caucus. But chances are, once the Iowa caucus happens, this is just my guess, that they're going to send those volunteers over to Nebraska and that paid staff over to Nebraska before our caucus. But right now, our volunteers are working hard in Nebraska as well as Iowa to try to get, you know, make sure that he gets a little push in Iowa.
Sure.
So
Yeah, that is important.
yeah, it's really important.
So if you know, one of our viewers, if some of our viewers would like to volunteer for the campaign, do you have a website or an email address that you'd like to share?
We do. You can go to Nebraskans for Bernie 2016 on Facebook and send me a message if you'd like to get involved. You can also go to neforbernie.com, and there's a way to contact us on the website, and more than likely you'll get me or a couple other people that will respond to you. But yeah.
And then what kind of work would they be volunteering for? Are we going door to door?
Yep.
You know.
Yep, we're going to do that. We've got people who are wanting to canvass, plan events. There's a lot of people out there who don't have time, but they have money, and you know, they can donate just to kind of help our little grassroots campaign along. Because we've got a group of people that go out west to North Platte and Kearney and, you know, Scottsbluff and all those places, and trying to get the word out about Bernie out there as well. So, you know.
So do you think he has a message that will cross over political
Absolutely.
lines? There are Republicans and people,
Absolutely.
independents, that would be interested in supporting.
In fact, I was at Nebraska Furniture Mart yesterday looking at computers, because obviously I've been running my Grassroots Campaign on a phone, which doesn't work that well. I was looking at a computer, and guy saw my button, of course, and he said, "Hey, I donated to him, and I'm a Republican."
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are coming out. A lot of people say that he reminds them of Dwight D. Eisenhower. You know, he's hearkening back to the days when Republicans weren't so extremist, because I mean, we've been going to the right for so many years, and they've really become, I mean, if anybody watched the GOP debate the other night, really extreme. So a lot of people are coming out. We've had events, and Republicans have stood up and said, "I'm a card-carrying Republican, and I've changed over to Democrat so that I could caucus for him in March."
So you think that there might be some built-up frustration on the part of the people on the left or Democrats, feeling like they haven't been having their issues aired, and because the party has really been pulled right by the GOP a little bit, in my opinion, and need to move back to the more progressive wing of the party.
I think, yeah.
Where Bernie is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people really have been
that's
frustrated.
Speaking to some folks that
really, and a lot of people have given up, to be real honest. A lot of people, who canvassed and did work for Obama in 2008, and then, within the first month of his presidency, he dismantled his grassroots campaign, and I think a lot of people became really frustrated with the way that he went in a very, he was corporate.
Right.
There's no other way to put it. And Obama has done great things, and Bill Clinton as well. He's done great things for our country, but I really think, like you said, it's all been kind of pulling to the right, and we need this. I mean, this is really our only shot right now at pulling back and saying, "Oh, wait here, we need to go back to our roots. We need to be progressive Democrats."
I agree, totally. He has a number of issues that he's put out there. Reforming Wall Street, real family values, and I'm not sure exactly what the details are of that. He's certainly in favor of creating decent paying jobs and the minimum wage,
Yep.
and strengthening unions. He talks a lot about the income and wealth inequality in this country, which you touched on a little bit, and getting money out of politics. Another one that we didn't hear at the so-called Fox News debate the other night with the GOP candidates was anything on climate change and the environment. We have a big issue here in Nebraska, with the Keystone XL pipeline, waiting for an answer from the Obama administration. Where is Bernie Sanders on that, and does he have any specific plans that you know of to come and help out some of the organizations that are working to prevent the Keystone from being built?
He's absolutely against the Keystone pipeline. He's come out and said it. He's really the only candidate that's come out and said that he's against the Keystone pipeline. In fact, a couple weeks ago, someone asked Hillary what her thoughts were on that, and she said, "Well, when I become president, I'll answer that question."
Yeah, it was a non-answer.
It's a non-answer. And a lot of Nebraskans and Midwesterners that are dealing directly with the Keystone pipeline became very frustrated with that. I know, like people like Jane Clubb on her own Facebook page,
She's the head of Bold, Nebraska.
She came out in big frustration, and at that point donated to Bernie Sanders, which I think says a lot. He's, I think, one of the only candidates that really has a little more comprehensive plan for what to do about climate change in our country. And I'm, to be real honest, I've heard rumblings of him coming to Nebraska. I talked to several people that are part of the Keystone pipeline, and they're willing to do whatever they can to get him in and talk to them, which I think is really important.
I think we need to keep the light focused on that
absolutely.
issue.
And climate change in general, I think, really needs to have a lot brighter light on that as well.
And the president did this past week. He did a couple of big things by coming out with
which was great.
Yeah, the new standards.
But it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough, right?
For us especially, it wasn't enough.
Right. He also commemorated the 1965 Voting Rights Act anniversary. It was a 50-year anniversary since that was signed by President Lyndon Johnson. And as part of that, he declared that September 22nd is voter registration day. As a party member, that's something that I'm very interested in. How does the Sanders campaign sit with some of the new voter ID issues?
And he just put out a very comprehensive plan on, well, because as you know, in Seattle recently, he was interrupted by some people, and in response to that, and he has a woman working for him, actually from Nebraska,
really,
who has been an advisor for him. I think Simone Sanders, no relation, is her name,
right.
And we just posted about her on our Facebook page.
I saw that this morning. It's great.
So we're really excited that one of our own is helping with the Sanders campaign, but. In response to that, I think she helped him put together a little bit of a plan to kind of address some of those issues. And one of the issues was making sure that everybody can vote. I think he talked about how African Americans were having to wait 7 to 8 hours in line just to vote. And have you ever experienced that here? No, I haven't either. I walk in, 5 minutes later, I'm done voting.
I vote by mail.
And a lot of people do, and they're trying to stop that from happening as well.
Right.
It's necessary for people to vote.
Yes.
And he even talked about like a lot of these people that are getting put in jail for nonviolent, petty nonviolent crimes, and how, they're getting felonies and whatnot, and how they're not able to vote now. And it's really sad. We've got a huge population of people who are waiting that long to vote and just trying to exercise being an American, which everybody should be able to exercise. So I think he's got some really great ideas on how to deal with that. He really believes that it's morally wrong that as American we are dealing with these issues. So we'll see how it all plays out, but I think he's got some great ideas, and I think he's one of the only ones, again, who's really addressing these issues.
Well, I was heartened about your comments earlier that your husband's a history teacher? Okay.
Social studies.
So social studies, wonderful. So I'm assuming that part of the curriculum would include some civic responsibility. What grade
he teaches high school.
He teaches high school, so I think that even earlier than that is when we need to start teaching our students about American political history and their civic responsibility, really, to vote and participate in the process, in the political process.
This is, again, and it happened in 2008 where we had this huge influx of younger kids who were just popping up everywhere wanting to vote for Obama. And I think the same thing is happening with Bernie Sanders. There's this huge group of people that just kind of coming out of the woodwork that are young, these millennials that are getting really excited about Bernie Sanders because they've grown up in these houses where things aren't going so great money-wise, and mom and dad have to choose between putting food on the table or taking their kid to the doctor if they have an accident. So it's resonating with a lot of these kids as well as their parents, that they need to get out there and be part of the process. So it's really cool. It's cool to see.
Well, I think it's exciting that even though I think Senator Sanders is in his early 70s, that he is the one that is getting the younger voters excited, and so it has to be his policies. Although he seems to have a lot of energy, but
yeah, I know.
He's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
But it must go deeper than just following a wonderful speaker or a young man like President Obama. He was very exciting for a lot of reasons, but
he was younger.
He was younger.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, and I was talking to, he was a history professor a couple weeks ago, and he said this is a really interesting election because this is the first time that he remembers in a really long time, and he was older, that people are really taking account the policies rather than just the popularity of the candidate. Right. So I think it's going to be really interesting. This whole campaign will be between Trump and
well,
having to listen to him.
We'll see how his flame might be going out.
One can only hope.
Yeah. I mean, gee, how could he keep a cabinet? You're fired. I mean, he'd be firing everybody all the time.
Yep.
So, what else can you tell us about the campaign here in Nebraska, or what else would you like to talk about in terms of the Bernie Sanders campaign? Is there something that's really
well, just keep an eye
issue?
out. Yeah. Keep an eye out for us. We're going to be canvassing. We're going to be going door to door. We're going to be making phone calls. We're going to be doing events.
Events, do you have
like
some ideas about?
barbecues for Bernie and things like that. In Omaha on, I believe, the 29th of this month, there's going to be a walk to Memorial Park. We've got an event on our Facebook page about that. And little things here and there. Like we went to a sports bar and watched the GOP debate. That was a riot. But little things here and there. But if you want to get involved, just send me a message and we'll get you a job.
Okay.
So,
for our viewers, why don't you go ahead and tell us how they can get in touch with you again?
Facebook, Nebraskans for Bernie 2016. If you send me a message and you want to do something, that would be great.
Email?
Email. If you go to neforbernie.com, you can contact us through the website. Or you can just send a message directly to me, Linda at neforbernie.com.
And then Bernie has a website as well.
Bernie has a website as well as just berniesanders.com. It's a great website. You can go through and look at all of his policies and what he stands for. We've been using a tool called isidewith.com.
Say that again?
isidewith.com.
Oh, okay.
It's a great tool for a lot of people who don't necessarily know who they agree with. They can go to that website and you just take a little quiz. And it can tell you who you agree with the most.
Okay.
And it's funny, I've had a lot of my friends take that quiz and they come back with, oh, I agree with Bernie Sanders 96%. I really thought I was a Rand Paul guy, or I really thought I was a Jeb Bush guy, and this is crazy. So it's really cool to see how, and it's not, it's completely unbiased website. You put in the information and it gives you back who you agree with the most. So it's really cool.
This morning I was kind of lost my train of thought when you were talking about that, but there was something similar to that during the Obama campaigns in 2008 and 2012, and it was pretty fascinating who you lined up with. And
yeah.
It's, I know that was coming to in the Sunday Lincoln Journal and Star opinion page. The woman wrote in and was telling people to get out and vote, register, get out and vote, take a position. And she said, don't just vote by hereditary. Just because your folks were Republican or Democrat, don't just think about it. Look at the issues, compare how you really feel with the issues, and then line up your vote along those lines. And so, yeah.
It's F-O-R, not four, not the number 4, by the way.
Okay, all right.
Nebraskans for F-O-R.
Right,
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And there's a lot of people who, even amongst Democrats, who are going with Hillary because they know who she is. But I think if they took a quiz like that, they might find themselves aligning with Bernie Sanders. It's interesting.
Anything else you'd like to add that would help our viewers out in understanding a little bit more about the Sanders campaign? We're going to wrap it up here in a few minutes.
No, I think a lot of people, they just go to the website and look and see what he's all about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Linda Anderson, a grassroots campaigner for the Bernie Sanders for President campaign. I'm your host, Jane Egan, and we'll see you next time.